Roll call, please. Barry.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Frizzalone. Gould. Harris.
Here.
Markham. Mustis. Ogala. Trainier. Van Dyne. And Winfrey. You do have a quorum. Thank you. Okay. Joe, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. I need a motion to suspend the rules to discuss the toll agreement.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, okay. I need a motion to suspend the rules so that we can go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
For the purpose of going into executive.
No, you're suspending the rules to change the order of the agenda.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mary.
change
So
your
we,
Moving
My motion.
okay.
We got it.
And,
forward the discussion of the Holt Road tolling.
okay, yes. Okay, thank you. There was a second?
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we need,
Second, once you go into executive session,
there we go. Thank you. And there was a
Contract
second.
negotiations.
negotiations for Cobalt.
Yes.
And
And a
and
second.
there was a second, Jackie.
Okay.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Lana?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Frizzalone? Gould? Harris?
Yes.
Markham? Mustis? Ogala? Trainier? Van Dyne?
Yes.
And Winfrey, you are in executive session. Thank you. To move,
Mary wants a couple other
Oh,
minutes to.
sorry.
To,
I'm ahead of myself. Go ahead, Mary.
because there's a couple other components that she wanted to.
So I just want to make clear, we need 3 spots on the county board agenda to deal with this because we have the component of the tolling agreement, which we discussed, setting the tolls. There is also a reimbursement agreement that we need to move forward where HRE LLC agrees to reimburse the county for certain expenditures that they've incurred during this process. And then there's an assignment of the MOU. And the MOU that you signed a year or 2 ago, I don't remember the exact date, we're approving an assignment from Centerpoint to HRE LLC as the primary party, as they are the partnership now rather than just Centerpoint. Okay? Yeah, to save a spot for all 3, yeah.
I'll make a motion to save a spot for all three. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The item moves forward to the full board. Okay. We'll go back into the regular agenda then with Strand and Associates. Thank you for waiting for us.
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm the Energy and Conservation Specialist for Will County. So for the past few months, Strand has been doing some assessments on our county-owned buildings to see whether solar would be a good opportunity to take advantage of. So I'm going to hand it over to Andy Rundy, and he's going to do the presentation of our River Valley Justice Center building and our Sunny Hill Nursing Home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Hello and Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you for that. So we, so the sun is out, but there's no solar power. Anyway, we have, we were asked to do assessments for 7 different sites, and we present, if you'll recall, we presented the adult detention facility results to you in August, and I'll kind of retouch on those two when I get done with these 2 for the River Valley Justice Center and the Sunny Hill Nursing Home. So the first the first slides are about the River Valley Justice Center. And I do have a clicker, Joel. You can be my backup in case it doesn't work. So here's the overview of what we're hired to do. Basically, meeting with the facility supervisors, and then we provided on-site engineering evaluation where we went and we looked at the roofs, we looked at the ground around the sites, we looked at the electrical infrastructure and the structure of the facility to make sure that it could handle solar. And then we analyzed the data, determined what possible sizes of solar we could do, and then presented the preliminary results in a technical report, which I believe you all have copies of, and then got comments from the county staff on that, and now we're making the presentation in preparation for presenting a ranking of all 7 sites to you later on. But so basically today we'll just be presenting on two of the 7 sites, one of which, River Valley Justice Center. We looked at 2 different options, the vacant parcel south of the facility and rooftop on the River Valley Justice Center buildings. So the summary is given the ability to offset the facility's annual electric usage, solar PV for electricity production is recommended by Strand and the Will County staff. And the building, for the building component, can support the weight of a 272 kilowatt DC array. And but that building, it doesn't face directly south. The roofs do not face directly south. The building is actually askew, and I'll show that to you in some photos later. So the efficiency of that system is not great, and therefore the economic recovery is not great for that option. But the vacant lot to the south, we could use about a 7-acre parcel for that to produce 1.75 megawatts or 1,750 kilowatts DC of solar. And that would produce enough electricity to make that a net zero facility. So that's a very strong option. And we would have to, because it would be such a large facility, 1,750 kilowatts, we'd have to upgrade the electrical distribution system at that site. So there's a little cost there, but overall it's still viable, and I'll go through the numbers here shortly. And then there is some additional work that still needs to be done at the River Valley Justice Center for energy efficiencies that we would recommend be done before we do solar. Basically some other low-hanging fruit, replacing some lighting and updating some HVAC. That is just very minor. Actually, that's already all in the works. It's just a question of making sure it gets completed. And the other thing I wanted to mention is you already have very low-cost electricity, and it's about to get lower. But even with that, solar is still considered viable, especially for the vacant parcel. So here's the economics. Basically, it's a 13-year payback for the solar, for the vacant parcel, ground-mounted solar. And the original price would be about $3.325 million. And it would cost about $10,000 a year to maintain the system. You get over $2 million in incentives. The incentives are a ComEd rebate of $250 per kilowatt installed, up to 2 megawatts, so we're just under that. And the Illinois SRECs, which is solar renewable energy credits. So we're anticipating that there will be approximately a $40 to $50 renewable energy credit available for each megawatt hour produced, and that money is paid back basically for the first 15 years. 15 years worth of energy is actually paid in advance in the first 5 years, so it helps to offset that initial purchase outlay. And then you would save $108,000 annually, and that number could go down a little bit, say maybe it might drop just under $100,000 annually with the new rates, but still have excellent payback. So you can see the graph on the screen there. In year 13 is when we break even, and then by year 20, you've got $1.4 million in cash that you've saved. And then there's also an environmental impact, of course, which is very significant for such a large facility that you can't discount, certainly. So you can see basically the far right photo, aerial photo, is north is straight up. So you can see that the roof, that building is askew. So we had to be creative with where we would put solar on that roof, and that's why putting solar on the roof just doesn't make very much sense. It's not terrible. It's not a terrible payback, but it's not as good as the vacant parcel or some of the other sites that we're reviewing for you. And then the vacant parcel basically just takes advantage of that bean field that's to the south. And uses 7 acres of that bean field. So that was the River Valley, and now I'll go through Sunny Hill. And if you have questions, feel free to cut me off. So same thing for Sunny Hill. It's in an excellent facility for solar. It's got a lot of flat roofs, and so the economic advantages are good for it as well. And the rooftops have been evaluated structurally, and they can support the weight of solar up to 441 kWdc. And electrically, it's in great shape. There's plenty of capacity in the electrical distribution system, so we can basically directly connect for relatively low cost. We wouldn't be net zero there. We produce about 35% of the electricity that's used annually. And again, I just want to mention that the lower rates that are coming will have a minor impact, about a 5% impact on the electricity costs per year. So similar economics. It's got a 14-year payback, and the purchase cost is $883,000 is our estimate for right now. Maintenance for that site would be about just under $3,000 a year. The incentives through the ComEd rebate and the solar renewable energy credits would be $532,000, and the cost savings in avoiding purchasing electricity is $26,000. And you can see, after 20 years, you have a pretty nice savings there too of $340,000. So you've fully recovered your initial cost. And
can you tell me again, how are the SRECs and the other credits paid? Is there lump sum payments up front? And then
so the ComEd rebate is upon completion and commissioning of the system. So that would be a lump sum right at the beginning.
what percentage of that 532 would it be?
So it's $250,000 or $250 per DC kW. So that's about 110,000 out of that.
The SRECs are each year?
So the SRECs, basically, it's 15 years. You calculate 15 years worth of SRECs, so 15 years worth of production, and then those are paid back within the first 5 years.
5 years.
Mm-hmm. So it helps to, get that money back into your coffers quickly. And then there's an approved vendor that monitors all of that and makes sure that you're still producing what you said you were going to produce. And if you don't produce that amount, then that the authority has the ability to take the money back from you. You post a bond, basically, so that they could take the money back from you if you fail to produce what was projected. And again, there's excellent environmental impact by doing this project for that site. And then now I've got to show you the rooftop there. The white rooftops are brand new. The darker colored rooftops actually, they have like a gravel, a ballast on them, and those are due for replacement. And other folks from the county could probably elaborate on that a little bit more about when that's going to happen. So we would definitely recommend, if you're going to put solar on the roof, you would definitely do the rooftop before you did solar. And so basically what we're saying is if you're going to do the solar project, you would have to also do the roof projects. You could basically get the funding for that all at the same time. This is a little hard to read slide, but basically it's showing the adult detention facility, which is the first site that we evaluated, then the 2 River Valley Justice options, the rooftop and the vacant parcel, and then Sunny Hill Nursing Home. And still to come in a future meeting, we'll talk about the public safety complex, the sheriff's office, and the 2 DOT campuses, the Joliet and Crest Hill campus. We'll talk about those later. But basically, this is just giving you an overview. And one thing I want to mention is that the adult detention facility, when we presented it in August, we said that the payback was 16 years. And at that time, that was true. But the price of solar PV modules has dropped significantly. And so that has now become a 13-year payback for the adult detention facility. And again, that facility also needs a new roof. So you wouldn't go forward with the solar without also doing the new roof there. And so we mentioned that at the previous executive committee session in August. So what you will see is that the River Valley Justice Center roof-only option just doesn't have a very good payback. It's a 23-year payback, and so after 20 years, you're still in the red. And that's really all I've got for review.
Thank you very much. Gloria?
Yeah, I just have a question. The land that's south of the River Valley, obviously right now it looks like it's being farmed. Do we know what the revenue is off that farmland that we get every year? And how is this offset when we put something like solar on it?
Right, so we did factor that in. And it's about, the revenue is about $200 per acre per year. And we factored that, the loss of that revenue, into the study.
Jim?
Yeah, the one concern I would have about River Valley doing anything over there is that it's an extremely underutilized building. It probably had about a 25% capacity, and it's still, I think the jury's still out on what's the future of juvenile detention centers. So I would have that concern of doing anything in River Valley, not from an energy perspective, but the fact that it's very underutilized and what is the future of that building. And I think we would have to perhaps have that discussion first on the viability of the building as a viable operational facility for us. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But it brings me to another question. If the solar is there and we put it on the grid, do we get some kind of credit for it, or only for that juvenile detention center?
That's the 250.
So the if you're not offsetting the if you're not using it for a facility, then you're basically selling the electricity on the open market, and you're not going to get as good as the offset for not purchasing power from your regular provider. So the numbers would be worse.
Right. So we would have to look at that. Sunny Hill looks like a more feasible one at this time, but it'll be up to this board to figure that. Are there other questions?
Can I go back to that? We do have a state facility that is being built right next to that facility, and possibly an option that they could purchase the land themselves for solar, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you. Don?
We do have a probate court also at River Valley, which is
That's
sometimes
true.
overlooked, so it might be helpful to have the chief judge here, so he can discuss what the
Yeah.
future court.
Plan for that building?
Court plans are, and the new courthouse is built, and what he plans to do out at River Valley.
Good point. We can arrange for that. Other questions or comments?
If I can make one other comment. So we did like River Valley, so when we're looking at prioritizing where we might put solar, if there's still question marks, I'm looking at the most logical one would be maybe taking a harder look at the adult detention center, which means we have to do that roof, but we've been talking about doing the roof anyway. The roof has to be done, so I guess, as you do your work and you do evaluation, because of maybe uncertainty at juvenile detention, River Valley, the adult facility might be a much more viable project for us.
Could be.
So we might juggle
Right.
that.
So this is kind of an interim step in the process, so we'll get done with all 7, and then we'll work with the staff to rank those 7, and we can, bring those points back up again and get it all back in front of you together. And it may be a possibility that you might decide to do none, or you might decide to do 1, or you might decide to get bids for multiple sites through the same bid event, and you might get some economy of scale by doing that as well.
Okay. We have Jackie and then Julie.
I'm looking forward to the other evaluations that are still pending, too, because the public safety complex has a brand-new roof, so there's no expense there. And if I'm not mistaken, it would be perfectly situated north, south, east, west to be a great location for solar. I don't know a lot about what's like on the south side of the building that might block sun or anything, or if there's a problem with towers, because I know they've got stuff going on with telecom stuff around there, but that might be like one of our best ones. And of course the ADF, I agree. And Sunny Hill, I know you said it needed a new roof on several sections. I don't know how much longer we were planning to wait on that before we addressed it. I know we're already talking about the ADF new roof. Right. I mean, that's been mentioned. I think like this year it's going to happen. So
I think Joel.
Yeah.
And
The 20 years lifespan of the 3 remaining sections that they pointed out is FY '25. Would be the rough 20-year end mark for that. And that's usually you start looking at your roofs to get replaced before they start leaking. You have a little wiggle.
Yeah.
If the roof is doing well, you can maybe postpone a year or so. But
Yeah,
FY '25 is the target date.
I think we've got other facilities that maybe would take precedence over them. Or maybe there's the option, too, of the 2 sections that are newer, that had the white in the background, of just doing that, but putting in the basic equipment for a much bigger system, but just putting the solar arrays on the 2 sections that are new. But like I said, I think the public safety complex is probably going to be one of our best bets. So thanks.
Julie?
Good job.
The solar panels, so they have a lifespan of 20 years, or will the technology change and there's a possibility that they would need to be updated? That's one question. Second question, you had the benefits of recycling versus disposal in a landfill. How are they recycled? Is it local, and is there still a cost for that?
Oh, I think you're talking about the environmental impact.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's just the electricity that we're producing offsets the traditional production of electricity using a coal-fired power plant. So basically, it's an offset for what if we had to burn coal to make that same power. So that's that one. And then as far as the module life, they are guaranteed for either 25 or 30 years, depending on which warranty you purchase. And that guarantee basically says that after 25 or 30 years, they will still be producing 80% of their initial production. Studies have shown basically that that number is going to be closer to 88% after 25 years. So we're basically, when we're designing our systems, we are planning for the modules to be there for 40 years. So after 20 years, you probably would have to replace the inverter that takes that power and converts it to AC power that's usable for us, for the facility. So you would replace the inverters after about 15 to 20 years, and that's the maintenance cost that was built into the cost was for the replacement of the inverters. But the modules will last for 40 years.
Is there any possibility to consider steel roofs? I know they're popular, they're being used a lot in certain parts of Michigan, and they claim they last a really long time. Is there any discussion about that?
Yeah, so they're popular for a pitched roof option. Yeah, so standing seam metal roofs, I'm sure you guys are familiar with those. They're excellent companion for solar because you can mount the solar but with a clip on the standing seam, so there's no penetration through the roof. So it's an excellent way if you are going to if you know you're going to have solar, doing a standing seam metal roof as a starting point would be great. You know, to put a standing seam metal roof on one that wasn't really set up for it to begin with, there's some additional, some significant costs there, and a standing seam metal roof costs more to install than a shingle roof. But it is a perfect mate for for solar.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to leave him off because he's got another presentation.
Yeah.
Renewable energy.
As a companion to that, we have Mike English, who is doing a presentation on 100% renewable energy.
Yeah, why don't you do that? So we have Mike English here, just like Denise was saying, Speaker Winfrey. So we had a month or two ago, there was a request to look at our renewable energy number again. And so Mike English went out to bid, and he got some results back, and he can kind of tell you what the cost would be. He also has maybe some recommendation on timing of when you want to do it.
Thank you, Dave. So yeah, you may recall back in August, we talked about the supply contract for the electricity, and we ended up doing a 3-year extension to the existing agreement, so you guys are covered through July 2024 with Constellation Energy, Exelon company. A part of that agreement is that 50% of the consumption is being sourced from renewable resources through the purchase of RECs, or renewable energy certificates. So similar to what Andy was talking about with the solar renewable energy certificates, there's a subset of that, or I should say there's a broader section of that just referred to as renewable energy certificates. Solar is specific to solar, obviously. So Constellation Energy is currently providing 50% of the county's facilities energy from renewable resources. What we did today, or what we're talking about today, is the potential, if you guys wanted to consider buying the remaining 50% of the energy and obligating a provider to source additional renewable energy into the grid on your behalf. So a little different idea from what Andy was talking about with the on-site. This is essentially you're obligating a third party to source Will County's energy consumption from renewable resources onto the grid. And so there's multiple providers of renewable energy certificates. Highlighted there are the most competitive so far. And so the unit cost of one REC, which is 1 megawatt hour, is about 0.00078 tenths of a penny per kilowatt hour. So based on the consumption for the county's facilities, the remaining energy that's not being covered by renewable energy certificates, that's 8,500 megawatt hours. So the total dollar cost on an annual basis to go to 100% green would be about maybe I'm looking at the older one, $7,200. I have the one from back in October. So, and like Dean said, we actually did this analysis earlier in October. It was about $6,600 then. There was a slight run-up towards the end of the year. What happens in the rec market is that organizations, corporations who have targets to be green, if they have money left in their budget, they tend to rush into the market at the end of the year to buy up recs to meet their goals. So there's a little more demand towards the end of the year. So we saw a slight run-up from October to today. If this is something that the county wants to consider doing, I would suggest perhaps revisiting this early next year after the markets kind of cool down a little bit and you'll see prices soften. At least that's what we see historically happen. So, any questions or?
Okay, so Jim, then Mike, did you have a question?
No.
No, okay, so Jim?
There's a couple questions I have. First up, there's renewable energy, and there's clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we look for clean energy, and renewable energy doesn't necessarily mean it's the cleanest energy. I just want to point that out, that, I think sometimes we get a little confused with these definitions of clean and renewable. Renewable sounds good, but it may not be the cleanest energy either. The other question I would have, though, that's my statement. The question I would have, though, is when you buy the RENs, all you're doing is basically financing or help financing renewable energy. Correct? I mean,
Correct.
Through the subsidy. Doesn't mean that you have it on your grid.
Right. So with Constellation, for
I
example.
just want to point that out. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden renewable energy is coming into Will County. It just means you have helped finance the renewable energy. It could be anywhere. It could be in Cincinnati, Ohio, for all we know.
Correct. Yeah, the agreement with Constellation, the RECs that were purchased are national by definition.
Yep.
So they could be coming from a wind farm in West Texas or Iowa, for that matter. So the more specific you get, however, you can drill down and buy RECs to a specific geographic location and a specific resource.
But that's not what you've done here.
No, this is
Yeah.
the cheapest option. We can get more detailed, but the more focused you become, the more expensive they also
Yeah,
become. So the providers here are providing their lowest cost option for the county's consideration.
So I just want to make the point, we're just helping finance renewable energy no matter where it's at. It's not on our grid necessarily, or certainly not coming into Will County necessarily.
But
So
you have that option if that's something you want to consider.
I think that would be a lot more expensive, but you're going to bring it back for consideration.
Yeah, we're looking into those specific options as well.
Okay.
Mike? Yeah, first, I'm just questioning why we're bringing this back. We voted on it. Should have been a done issue for at least a year. But secondly, we're going to be in the business of trying to sell the RECs, not buy the RECs, right? With our RNG facility.
Well, that's
Same kind of thing. We're going to be
RINs.
rents, but we're going to be selling.
Yeah.
So
energy benefits.
let's go to the sell part instead of the buy part now.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather sell them.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Jackie?
I'd really like to see this come back to us, like he mentioned at the beginning of the year. When we discussed this before, it was already pretty late in the year. And if the prices are the lowest in the first quarter of the year, then that's the period of time we should look at it all the time. Not just this past contract that I think was like August, September-ish.
Those are two.
Well, yeah, it was in the summer. So I'm thinking, I get we're in this contract until, whatever period of time we sign for. But I would like to see us look at it earlier in the business year. Because if he's correct, the prices are lower at the beginning of the year, then we want to lock in a price, even if we're only still doing 50% or 75%. We want to do it early in the year.
And to your point, I would just want to make sure there's a clarification. The REC purchases that we're talking about are different from what we talked about in August. In August, we talked about actual supply of electricity, the commodity cost, plus RECs. So this is just, if you wanted to, if Will County wanted to make the statement that 100% of our consumption is being sourced from renewable resources, that's what we're talking about today. What we dealt with in August was the actual, who your supplier is going to be for the energy for your account. So they're a little different. We kind of did two birds with one stone in August. Now we're just talking about renewable energy today.
Oh,
So
I'm definitely confused then.
Sorry.
And apparently Jim, so I'm not alone. Oh, wow. Both of us.
Okay, Don?
Well, we all had a nice, healthy debate several months ago, and I think we settled on 50%. And the reason we settled on 50% was, from my vantage point, we have a major nuclear producer here in Will County.
And gas
Braidwood
producer,
Nuclear,
too.
and we talked about them being the #1 ratepayer here in the county, and they pay the salaries of a lot of people in this room here. They're not paid by a wind farm in Pennsylvania. Those salaries are paid in Braidwood, and not to mention, that those are very high-paying jobs.
Yeah.
They support a lot of school districts and libraries and so forth. So we were trying to make a statement: buy local, invest in your own county.
And it's clean.
It is clean, but it's not renewable.
No, it's clean.
Nuclear is not renewable.
No.
So when we had this discussion, we said, well, then we'll settle on 50%, and I thought that was a fair compromise.
Didn't they reopen the Midwest?
Okay.
Midwest.
It's NRG, but that's
gas.
that's natural gas.
This is clean.
Okay.
It's not renewable either.
It's not renewable.
Natural
but it's-
gas is
but
not
it's clean.
considered, but it's clean.
Clean, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're a big taxpayer, too.
Yeah. Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay. Okay. Nothing else? No. Okay, thank you, Mike. Dean?
Let us know when you want Mike to come back.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Is Mary back over there? Yeah, she is, okay. Okay, so this will be the rest of the afternoon here. That's the end. Okay, yeah, we should have ordered it lunch. Okay, next up is prohibiting the establishment of recreational, I'm adding that word in, it doesn't show it on the agenda, but it's recreational cannabis business within unincorporated Will County.
Do you want, I don't know, do you want Mary to speak on
Yeah.
this first?
We're going to have a state's attorney speak first. This is recreational. We already allow medical, obviously. So recreational cannabis in unincorporated Will County. This is for
I
prohibiting.
wanted to clarify the agenda a little bit. The way it was listed on the agenda was narrow, and while I don't think it would have prohibited, it wouldn't, I think there's a good argument to be made that the ordinance as drafted was attached, so fully informed to the public, but this is a controversial subject, so I wanted it as clean as possible, so I wanted to correct the title on the agenda. And so that's why we've brought it forward under this title.
Okay.
I have, Matt and Chris came with because they've been very involved in this process. But under the statute, it authorizes local governments to prohibit the location of cannabis businesses within their jurisdiction. And there are a variety of cannabis businesses. It's not just the sale. It includes, oh, and I think I put it in, I'm sorry. I have it here somewhere, sorry. Craft growers, infusers, processors, dispensaries, cultivation centers, processors. So it allows you to prohibit any one of or all of them. So part of my concern going forward and what we would like direction is, A, does the board have an interest in prohibiting all of them or any of them? it would be helpful for us in making sure that whatever comes forward to county board is reflective of the intent of the committee.
Okay. So with that, we need to hear from you what your preference is. Mr. Moostis. First one up, Mr. Moostis.
Okay. My preference would be that they would all be included. I'm not so sure, I mean, the only one that I'm...
Included, just for clarification, included in a
To be-
prohibition or
the
included in
prohibition,
allowed
prohibiting.
to locate? Okay.
Prohibiting. I don't quite know as much about processing and infusers as it seems to me that's kind of a whole different kind of business. They're not selling it here, they're necessarily. I don't know if I quite understand. The craft growers I understand. I'm not so sure I understand about what is processing in infusions, or the infusions, if that's the one and the same.
I am not sure. Do you have more information on exactly what the infusing component is? It's infusing it into other types of product. Am I correct?
Like gummies, like
It's-
gummies.
Gummy
yes.
bears, lollipops, brownies, that kind
But
of
they're just
stuff.
like manufacturers, so to speak, right? I mean, they're not selling it here,
Correct, they're moving it,
to wherever.
correct.
I mean, it could be moved to another county, I would assume.
Anywhere in the state.
So they're, right.
Say.
So they're basically manufacturing a product.
Quite frankly, I'm more interested in the sales myself and the craft growers. I'll just throw that out there, so.
Okay.
But it might
Julie?
be easier just to include everything.
Couple things.
So-
Because,
That would be the dispensing and the craft grower is what you're talking about. Okay.
okay.
I just want to be clear.
Because this is kind of confusing. I thought that, well, there's a difference between hemp and cannabis, and we already, and I'm just going by memory from a prior conversation in one of our meetings, and we do have people in Will County growing hemp, I believe, don't we? So this is not related. I just want to make sure that I understand it properly. The other thing is when we're talking about the products, the people selling cannabis, do we include products like vaping? I'm hearing there's a whole range of ways to do cannabis that includes burning and vaping and all kinds of things. So will our ordinance, if it's passed, include those types of products and baked edibles and things like that? Are we going to be very specific about
No.
what they're selling?
No, it's these, I think, 5 or 6 categories are 6 broad categories is what you would be dealing with. So cannabis craft grower, cannabis cultivation center, cannabis dispensing organization, infuser organization or infuser, processing organization or processor, and transporting organization or transporter.
So which one sells the recreational cannabis to the consumer?
That would be the dispensing
Okay, so my
organization.
question is, do we specify what types of products the dispensary is going to
No,
sell?
we do not.
That's not,
So it's all or nothing?
it's their
and-
choice.
All the crazy ways they use cannabis is going to be,
Well, the use is going to occur, so let's be clear. The use is going to be legal. It's whether or not they can have the business, whether they can locate the business that dispenses it in unincorporated Will County.
Okay. Thank you. Judy?
So my desire would be for, since there's so many different ways, I'm going to use Jackie's thing here because I was in a note. There's different things for us to vote on, not to vote on. There's different ways of,
Different levels of opting out.
right, different levels, in my opinion, of opting out, whether we would want to allow craft grower, cultivation center, dispensing, infusing, processing, and sales. To me, I would like to have something that we could vote on independently for each one of those, because they're so different. I think that would be the they're different in many different aspects, and different opportunities for people who want to have cannabis. So I would like a different resolution on each one to vote yes or no.
Okay.
That would be my preference. That's my preference.
Okay. Okay.
We can just carve out Section 3 into 6 different ordinances.
Okay. Other comments or positions on this?
Jim's.
Do I need to make a motion to that effect, if that's what we, and at least we get
If we end up
policy
there,
approval?
but I don't think that we've heard from people.
Anybody else has any comments?
Okay, that's somebody.
General public, I believe.
Yeah, that's general
Yeah.
public.
Oh,
Do we have
Joe.
board members, Joe?
And this is just a personal opinion. I don't have an issue with keeping all 6 voted together in one resolution. But if it's the will of the executive committee to break them down, that would be fine also.
Okay. Any others? Jackie?
And I just want to be clear, because not everybody was here for the discussion at land use, but the majority of the locations where this product could be sold, cultivated, infused, or processed, or again, grown, are going to be in the southern part of the county, where we can deal with the, again, assuming the land use resolution gets passed, deal with the buffer zones that we talked about. So, for example, there is no unincorporated area in Bolingbrook. Bolingbrook has opted out. Ergo, even if we passed this, or excuse me, if we did not pass the opt-out, there would be no locations for any one of A through E in Bolingbrook, because it's a municipality, much the way Naperville is. Naperville opted out. There are a few unincorporated areas in Naperville, but they would not none of these businesses, these 5 individual business types, would be able to be located in Naperville because there's not enough unincorporated land and the buffer zones that are required to locate this there. It's not going to be in Naperville.
They haven't made a decision. They're having a referendum.
But again, at this point, it's still not going to be there under the unincorporated part, is the way I understand it. Now, Ray's shaking his head at me, so let's debate, Ray. What are you
No.
thinking?
Were you finished, Jackie? So then, Ray.
What I'm trying to say is, you are absolutely 100% correct in the fact of where it could and can't be, had we put that 1.5 mile buffer in, because that's what actually showed, that's what actually pushed them. What you guys voted on at land use did not include that 1.5 mile buffer. It included just the sensitive areas, but it didn't include the 1.5 mile buffer, and it didn't take out the C1. So, in fact, you can have these in all parts of the county.
Well, his
Okay.
map
It was difficult.
very good to read.
Yep, it was difficult.
From the portion that I saw,
Yeah.
I didn't really see any opportunity. I think somebody would have to point out to me a specific lot
Sure.
where this could go, because I didn't see it.
Yeah, I would love to see that buffer, because then you are absolutely correct.
There were
Those,
2 lots, I
you're,
think.
yep. When you put that buffer in, you do afford those municipalities who opted out those protections, like in Bolingbrook, like in Naperville, like in New Lenox, Mokina, Frankfurt especially, and in that group in the Lincoln Way area, you do afford them. But what was voted on did not include that, and that's what I'm looking for in the land use, if we could get that buffer, now that we're in front of the entire board, protection.
Okay. Steve?
We need a better map.
You're right. So, and that was my second point, Madam Speaker.
Okay, go ahead.
How can we address the voting in or out ahead of the land use? Because it doesn't make sense to me that we're going to vote on the land use portion of it, and then later in the agenda, when we get to the executive, then we're going to discuss if we're in or out. I think the in or out needs to come first, because then that precipitates what land use, which rules that we vote on. So if we say we're out, but yet we just voted on everything assuming that we're in, I just think the in or out, the opt-out needs to be voted on before the land use, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so-
Mary, I believe you had some comments around that?
So, yeah, we discussed this at State's Attorney's Office, and we think, A, it's not a bad thing to have a zoning ordinance on the books, even if you ban it, because at some point you could choose, after viewing what the other communities do, you could decide to repeal that ban. And then your zoning is already in place and you don't have to go through the public hearings and everything again. And we can add language to the zoning that specifically states, and I haven't figured out the language quite yet, but it would essentially say that these zoning districts will not go in effect, or there will be no permitted zones for these uses if a ban is in place. So basically, if it's not a legal use in Will County, these uses will not be permitted under the zoning ordinance. So we could do that if you wish us to do that.
Okay. Well, this whole thing, isn't it? This whole thing is. Okay.
Well, and if you're going to, I will say, part of our struggle with trying to decide how to craft that language was sort of hinged on, well, will they vote to prohibit anything? Will they vote to prohibit everything? Or will they only vote to prohibit some things? And so that's what makes crafting the language for the zoning ordinance a little trickier.
And I do agree that we should split them out, because, the way the land use ordinances are written, they're all separate zoning and separate. I think we should be able to vote on them separately, because if for some reason, people think we should be able to grow it, and there should be a grower because we're an agricultural county and maybe don't have an issue, but have an issue with the sales, people should be able to go on record and do that, and our zoning would already be separated out already for us. So I think separating them would be a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm on the land use committee, and the first thing we talked about was the mile and a half buffer zone. And we didn't vote on it. I didn't realize that we didn't pay, I was assuming that was in it. And so when we were moving forward, I wanted to make an amendment of one of the things Rachel made a motion for, and then everyone would start talking, and I realized, it's the mile and a half buffer is going to take care of it, because I would have said to take out the C1, and, a lot of stuff was based on that, for me, on that mile and a half buffer, because the city of Lockport, the mayor actually called me on the phone and told me, he says, we're going to opt out, but we don't want to have the pockets in Lockport, which there are quite a few, be able to have a dispensary, because it's not right for our town to say no, and then the county to say yes, and then they're allowed to come in. And so that mile and a half buffer, that worked. But, so I think we have to bring that back maybe and vote on that mile and a half buffer.
Yeah. Other comments? Jim?
I would just like to make a motion, if I can.
Yeah.
You ready?
That wanted to speak, I think.
Oh, yeah, we do have some public that was wanting to speak. We didn't have anybody signed up, but we do have someone wanting to make
Okay,
public comment. If
I'll
you'd
wait.
come forward.
I'll wait.
And if you would, just state your name, please.
Yes, I'm Ken Miller. I live at 2916 Portage Street in Naperville, Illinois, in Wheatland Township. I appreciate your conversation you just had. This was my issue. I'm not in favor of recreational marijuana, but it's going to happen, I know. But the issue for me is I can look across the street in our subdivision and there is an industrial commercial property there. It's fairly good sized. It is in Naperville, Wheatland Township, and there's several of those. So what I was concerned about is Naperville opts out, and then you plop in a dispensary in the middle of that. So that's what I don't want, and I agree with Steve and Ray as well, that if you had a buffer zone, that would take care of it. Either that or put language in that specifically says any municipality that is opted out there would not be any cannabis sales or manufacturing in that area. So thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Anyone else from the public? Okay, thank you. Okay, Mary, you wrap us up here. What needs to happen now?
I just need to know what you want to move forward to county board. So
Okay.
if you'd make the motion to move forward to county board. I think Jim's moving.
Okay. Just,
Maybe the easiest way to move forward. I'm just going to make propose a resolution that includes all 6 categories for the board's consideration.
Second.
I know.
Confused now.
I know.
One resolution for all 6?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the easiest way. You can vote no, let's, you know.
so the motion is to either be in or out on all portions that Mary has described. That's 6 categories, is that right? That includes growing, processing, manufacturing, packaging, and dispensing. Or infusion, that was the other one. Okay? Okay.
I think it's
So,
gonna be
do we need a roll
easy. You
call?
want to debate 6 of these?
Let's do a roll call.
No.
Come back to it.
Brooks?
So this is moving into the board?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Mustis?
Yes.
Nogella?
No.
Trainier?
Yes.
Van Dyne?
Yes.
Fury?
Yes.
And Winfrey.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. And this is just moving it to the full board so that all members can have a chance to weigh in.
One resolution.
One resolution going forward to the full board.
That's Mary.
Okay.
Jim has a question.
Yes.
Procedural question. So at the board, we tabled the resolution
Yeah,
that was there.
yeah.
So now we'll untable that resolution. And then will we replace it with the new resolution or amend that
Or
resolution?
You can even allow that one to die, because this is going to come forward under this topic,
new heading.
which I think is clearer to the public. Yeah,
So I'm just, I guess, so can we, so this will be on as a second
correct.
on the
Right,
agenda?
completely
Yes.
new.
Yes,
Completely new, but it will be on the agenda.
yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to ask.
Okay. Steve, you had a question?
At what point do we, if I want to make a motion, I'm not on the committee, so I can't do it here, but at the full county board, do I make a motion at the executive session, or in land use to add the mile and a half buffer?
You could do the commercial zoning too, for neighborhood commercial. You would do all that at the land use.
Okay, I just want to be clear so we do it the right way.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Judy?
So I have a question. So now, Jim made a motion to put all 6 in one. I think it gives the board the opportunity to make a better decision overall, rather than opting out of all or opting in for all. I still would like to, can I make a motion to say that we make a resolution for all 6, that we vote on all 6?
You can bring that up at the meeting.
Individually, you mean?
Yeah.
You can pull them out if you need to.
Individually.
If you want.
You can make a motion to amend to eliminate some of them. I guess you could bring it forward as a separate vote for each type of business.
Okay,
At the-
procedurally, though, we already have had a motion.
You already
that
passed the
wraps it. We have
resolution,
one
yeah.
dissenting vote. so the
I mean, to
majority
me, I
was
think,
ruled.
I don't know everybody, I haven't talked to everybody about it, but I think that there are various
So
differences
if you want,
in
we
each
could
thing.
bring it forward as a whole, and then I can bring 6 individuals as well.
Okay, Mary, if we're bringing the 6 individuals, is that another motion required here?
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to bring each of them individually forward, because I think that there would be different votes, different people. Everything is a different thing. In my district, I've heard from many different people on a lot of different topics. And that, the one man here from Naperville who just spoke, his issue was is okay, as long as that buffer's in there, he's safe and where he is from whatever. But in my community, I've had a lot of different feedback on different things, and for myself, I would like to be able to respond to those based upon a vote on each individual thing. So I would like to make a motion to do that.
Ray?
We keep saying 6 over and over and over, and
Or
I'm
five.
confused.
Right.
I'm only seeing dispensary, craft grower, cultivation center, infuser, processor, 5.
5.
No, there's 6.
So there,
Is there 6? What's the 6th?
There we go. There's 2 there.
what is the 6th one?
5.
Campus craft.
Oh, yes, on the next page.
Craft and cultivation.
Transportation's on the next page.
It's on the next
So
page.
transportation
I
is an
missed that
addition.
one.
Okay.
Okay, so you'd be
Thank you.
shipping.
There is
That'd be the
6.
shipping of it, so there's 6
you.
altogether.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because it's
We
not
have-
land use, that's why we didn't.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor at this point.
Don't have a second.
Opportunities for minority groups to.
I have a question, so the motion, we've approved the motion to bring it, resolution with all categories.
Correct.
We have.
So now
And Mary has
there's
said there can be a separate motion.
that resolution?
No, it would be an addition, so you would have the option of either voting to ban all of them, or you could then go through and vote to, and I would think if you do this, it is going to be confusing, because if you opt to ban it, then the others become irrelevant. And the others would go away.
It is very
So
much.
there's either one resolution with 6.
I think it's
I mean, you can always vote to amend the resolution to eliminate certain ones, so that certain ones are not banned, if that's what you would like to do.
I mean, it sounded like that's what you were looking to do.
So at this point, though, we have the resolution on the floor.
With
so-
no second.
Without a second. Julie, are you raising your hand to second?
She can't, she's not on the committee.
She can't second it.
So, Mary, are you saying that we can or we cannot ban growing, or can we opt out of selling it, but then also allow growing it?
Yes.
We can.
You can.
So that would be the benefit of bringing forward an individual resolution. That's what we're,
But you can also, so if it comes forward with 6 options, you can amend it on the floor to remove, say, craft growers, and say, we don't want to ban craft growing. So that can happen on the floor. If you have some.
Pull them out as you see fit.
Everything. That's what this whole, sorry, that's
But you
So-
can make an amendment.
On the amendment to separate them, I still do not have a second,
It's
so.
not to amend, it's to.
Or to, I'm sorry, to
Add
change.
6 resolutions.
Yes, add 6 rezos. There is not a second. There is not a second.
a renewable.
There is not a second. The motion
You
dies.
can move, you can,
Okay. So Mary, is that mud clear enough?
I think so.
Okay.
That's why
Okay.
marijuana got.
Okay.
They made a schedule.
Okay, thank you. We have no other old business. Moving to the new business, amending the Will County Liquor Ordinance, referencing the number of liquor
It's a Schedule
licenses.
1 drug, and drugs that are far more
Jim.
dangerous are not.
This is just a decrease in Class B, I believe.
Was it Class B?
Mm-hmm.
There he is.
I sent a memo to you in November just saying that one of our Class Bs went out of business.
Green Golf Partners, whoever they are.
Golf course in Green Township.
Oh,
So
let me get back to
is your
the
project
Get out of the pot, get back to the alcohol.
Back to the alcohol. Like that's back.
Okay, and just for everybody's refresher, we agreed that we would only consider new licenses after the full review, land use, and the whole gamut, that we would not have extra licenses just sitting out there. So this then supports that.
And I make that motion to remove that license. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up, suspending all services other than election-related functions in the county clerk's office on March 17th, which is primary day. Mike?
Do we do that before? We're not in charge of her office.
I asked Lauren, she said yes.
We did?
But I don't know why, she hasn't told me.
And have we ever done
No, wait. Shh.
Oh.
No, that's they need permission to alter their hours.
Okay. All right, I make that motion.
Yes, we have. Yeah. Motion, a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, setting the number of sworn personnel, correctional officers. Let me just say before we open this one, this is not adding any new people. We have already approved the number in the budget. What we are doing now is saying, yes, go ahead and get the number that we gave you in the budget. That is really all that this is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Reimbursement for the cost of medical and hospital services provided to prisoners in custody of the Will County Sheriff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next one down, we are going to remove from the agenda, that is the well path issue. There's some more work that needs to happen on
No,
that.
this one does not require board approval.
Does not require. Okay, so we're removing it from the agenda is all that you're doing. Did I have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 6 we already did. That was on the tolling agreement. Number 7, selection of committee on the food services bid for the new courthouse. Dave, did you want to say a few words about that first?
We just need to know who would be interested.
Do we want
And
to
what-
name the committee members, though?
And what we're going to, what this is about is getting a food service for the courthouse, and I want to do a committee to basically food taste. So I need, so I'm looking for a bipartisan committee of 5 maximum who would be willing to do that work. 3, 4, we need one more. So we have Jackie, Mark, Jim, Julie, and Steve. That's the 5.
Jackie, Julie, and Steve.
Okay, thank you. All done.
Congratulations. Just so you know, the responses to the RFQ are due tomorrow, and we will distribute them to the newly appointed or elected committee members, and we'll have approximately 1 month to review, and then we'll convene after the holiday. How's that sound?
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Number 8, supporting Denise Winfrey for NACO board seat as second vice president.
Motion.
Let me just, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. I'll just say a few words in case you're not familiar. The process at NACO is that you're elected only as second vice president, and there is an automatic ascension. If you win that seat, then you, on the next year, you become automatically first, and then president, and then immediate past president. So it is a 4-year commitment. I'll say that the State Association is already in favor, but that annual meeting is tomorrow, is when they would take formal action. So that would mean that we would, if we won, I would get to host a Board of Directors meeting here in Will County. We'd have some other things we'd get to host here, be able to bring some traffic in here, be able to highlight our transportation hub, our culture and arts, and other things of Will County. So there's an opportunity for us in that. Even if I don't win, there is an opportunity in terms of publicity for Will County and a spotlight being shown here. So, Joe?
I just wanted to thank Jim for bringing this up and giving the board an opportunity to support our speaker. I think it was a fantastic idea, so thank you, Jim, and I'm a yes.
Thank you. So, thank you. All those...
That's a great idea, but I was a yes.
Yeah, I know, yeah, you're good about going along. So all those in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, proclamations. Mike, Mark?
We have 2. One is the check presentation to the Joliet
Township High School Band.
Band from the Waste Management Funds, and the other one is recognizing National School Choice Week that will be read into the record.
Okay. Okay. And then appointments by the county executive. Move to accept those. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Under new business, we have, we need to save spaces for the two contracts, one for Curry and Associates and the other for Smith Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, I don't think we had anything else on your plate today, Mary, not that you didn't have enough already. Okay, so we'll move into the committee reports then, starting with land use. Okay. Okay. Anything else for you, Tyler? No. Finance?
Bring some snacks along with your lunch. We did have a public hearing on the cannabis tax and set the resolution to approve the retail tax on cannabis.
Okay.
And then we got a grant for the sheriff and a temporary loan to the highway department.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Public Works?
Well, I would suggest bringing dinner because we are going to be voting on a resolution to implement a gas, whether to implement a gas tax or not.
Definitely dinner.
Okay. All right, thank you. Judicial?
Nothing.
Okay. Public Health and Safety?
No resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Legislative and Policy?
No resolutions. No.
Okay. Capital?
I don't think that. I got one resolution. I just got one resolution.
Okay, nothing, anything, okay. And then we have Executive Committee, and let's see, I think we've covered pretty much everything. What do I have left, anything? We'll have, obviously, the public hearing on the cannabis, recreational sales. Mary's already talked about how that's going to be set up.
And the public hearing for the liquor.
And a public hearing for the liquor ordinance. Okay, so,
Just approve the agenda.
so then we need a motion to, no?
You can ask for any other.
Okay. So, before we approve the agenda, any other public comments? Looks like our public has disappeared. That's one good thing about going along, is you don't get any contesting from the audience, huh? No public comments, no public comments. Okay, move to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I don't think we need any further executive session, Mary?
Yes, January 2nd meetings are canceled.
Before we go, the January 2nd meeting is canceled. That's the day after the holiday. We will hear everything through executive on the second Thursday.
So public
So
works
that
will
we
be
will-
canceled as well.
Right. Okay, so we'll do that on the second, so you can all have a long holiday. And then in case you didn't see the notice, on next Thursday at our, as is our custom, before the start of the meeting, if you have goodies to bring or an appetite for the goodies, be prepared to enjoy those on Thursday morning on the 19th. And let's see, I think that's it. If we have no further business, any comments from commissioners?
Cannabis brownies. Not legal yet.
Oh, okay, we'll take care of that. It's off, okay. Anything else before we adjourn?
It's nice we do a resolution of support of Speaker Winfrey for second vice, but there's more to it than that. We got
There's
to
more
work and get her
work, yes.
elected. So, for those of you who are participating, when you go down for NACO events, make sure you're talking it up for Denise. And be
Thank
there
you.
to help.
That's right. And so,
Talk her up.
yeah, that's right. And so on that note, prior to that event, there will be literature, freebies, whatever, to be passed out. There will be a booth at the Ledge, and so you'll have an opportunity to be handing out some things and to talk it up. And if you have friends in other states, it's an opportunity for you to give them a call, lobby, so that we get them on our side. Because in order for us to win as a state and as a county, we have to have other people going with us, so there is some work to it. Yep, okay. Thank you. That's it? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? All those in favor? I'm counting that as aye.